people really like to give up, and they don't really have that drive.
The expectation should be to win first place.
Get them to ascend.
We kind of just threw at the end.
30 seconds left.
Yeah, M80 were winning 5 versus 3.
Look how quick this one.
Oh!
Welcome back, everyone, to Valorant Challengers League North America. I'm your host, Elizabeth, joined by Gompers and Drad. And if you're just joining us, you missed a hell of a change from yesterday if you were watching Trust and Plug yesterday, where Trust and Plug take their map pick against M80 of Ascent 13-5. I wrote down they got more rounds in the first half, than they got total yesterday versus their other opponents from yesterday. But moving forward, Gompers, I'm gonna go to you right away. You were like, this is the plug Trust and Plug I know. This is the team that I was like rooting for and I pretted yesterday. Yeah. Now this is like what you believed in yesterday is being shown today.
No, they were so much more connected, I would say, as a team. And also Chaotic was shining, like absolutely perfect gameplay coming through from Plug. And again, like this was the team that I knew, the team that really carried away in the defense. The team that was a lot more cautious in the way that they like to handle their attack. And it was interesting seeing the op being brought out by Chaotic, you know, on the attacking side. But I think it worked out so well because Moose actually, you know, as the Sentinel, there's not really much you can do on the attack other than, you know, play for the post plan, maybe have the occasional trip in the back. But I feel like Moose really took on that duelist role for, you know, for Chaotic at times. And it really worked out well because Chaotic then set up Moose. And a lot of the time you would see like a little bit of a dynamic where the ultimate would come out from Chaotic and then Moose would be there to kind of profit off of it. So I think it was absolutely beautiful the way they play the attack and the defense from this team. And now I don't look stupid, guys. I seriously think this team has so much potential.
Dan, something I want to ask you is that this is a map that Plug picked first both times. Yesterday versus Envy and today versus M80. What changed between yesterday and today? Was it like what were you talking about, what they fixed? What do you think was the difference maker between yesterday's match versus Envy and today's versus M80? Is it the team, like their opponents, or what? Dan, talk to me. What is it?
To be honest, I don't think the early rounds were played any different to what we saw yesterday, right? Very, very slow rounds. They're trying to get that mid control. They're going to that mid to be hit. And this is happening constantly into these early rounds where it's kind of back and forth because M80 had just gotten that bonuses up 3-1. You don't really know. It seems like M80 are going to get away with it. And they're going for these slow plays that are working out really well until you start seeing those timeouts from both sides where you want to play it a little bit faster, play a little bit different, go for those brawl fights. And then that's when Trust and Plug start to get the hang of it and get the better understanding. Just having A4 half into this map of Ascent on the attacking side just shows you enough. They were so proactive throughout the map, and M80 were kind of doing the same thing over and over again.
Gomper, something I'm going to ask you is that I went back to the map picks and bans from yesterday. This Ascent was a map M80 was willing to float. It ended up being banned by Burger Boys in the second round of picks and bans. But this was a map that M80 are willing to play. It's not they banned, you know, Fracture last time. And so what do you think went wrong on the side of M80?
I mean, to be honest, they just let Plug in take a lot more space than I feel like was necessary. A lot of the time it was a lot of mid control being handed over. Yeah. And not only that, but they weren't too proactive with finding and gathering too much information off the rip. The attack felt a little messy, and where Plug and Trust, you know, that being the defense being their best side, they took advantage of a lot of cross-hold plays where, you know, when a flash would come through, obviously no one else is going to think anything of it. They just walk in and there's 2 players watching and they're able to get more than one. So I think they just had honestly perfect positioning on Plug and Trust that M80 were just not able to counter, right? And they had, you know, some sort of information that could come through from Tejo, but it felt like they didn't use it to the best of their ability, and they were just kind of lacking. And okay, where are these players standing? All right, and not actually taking the information and, you know, asking themselves, okay, what are they doing with it? But more so just thinking more in a singular route, if that made sense.
I want to break a round down of something that we got to see on the side of M80, but more than that, Trust and Plug and what they're doing throughout the map. So just to set this up, the round before there was a timeout, then there was a brawl on the A side for the defense. They were trying to fight, and it came to the individual 1v1s, and then we go into a full buy, right? So let's take a look at this round number 9, where the setup, it goes back to M80 to what it's been from the beginning, right? So you're gonna have the Vice and the Sova towards B side, Yoru towards mid, Teho and Omen on that A side. And very early on, the Yoru decides to change this setup. Instead of having that mid presence, Sato is actually going to go for that B main control with the operator. He's going to lose that duel. And then that's when the chaos starts, because Trust and Plug are going for even coming down to this play with the ultimates. It's coming down to the individual 1v1s into the round, because M80 just cannot have any map control. They've been playing this 2-1-2 setup for pretty much most of the rounds. So you have that, you have an information coming through for the Sova on the attacking side. They realize actually Sato's not going to be there. Oh, we actually just took him down B main thanks to moves. And then they just take this over into tree, where they get that one extra pick, and they just forces a pivot into A side. They plant the spike. It comes to the 2v2 for that retake of the 2 players that were playing towards B. And that's just the way that they win the round. So it was really well played by Trust and Plug. It's a little risky because you're relying on the fact that the side of M80 on the defense, they're playing by themselves, but it just happened that was the case, and it worked out so well for them. After that, they got Chaotic got an A's, and it just seems like they were able to snowball into that half.
Gomper, something I'm going to ask you, since we were on the desk together yesterday, is that we're moving into M80's map pick of Split. And this is a map they chose yesterday and dominated on against Burger Boys. What do you think they have to do to make sure they bring this to map 3? Do they keep the same game plan as yesterday, or do you think they have to adjust with the way Plug is playing against them today?
I think game plan yesterday really was just run and kill, to be honest. And if that's what's got to happen, then I think that's what's got to happen. I think a definite mental reset is necessary, because this was just not the game for M80, to be completely honest with you. This was not what I was expecting. I was expecting a little bit more of a fight. I think for Plug and Trust, they're definitely feeling more together, and whatever they talked about yesterday, it's definitely carried the momentum. So for Split, for me, M80 did a really good job at securing space early on, whether it be, and especially through mid, right? Since they are starting on attack. So I think definitely just trying to eke their way into space down towards mid, right? And just take their time and think strategically. I think the Yoru is going to be a good one for, for them, for Sato especially since he played phenomenally on Yoru, and I felt like he was just the most confident on that duelist. So especially on Split, maybe we'll be able to see something different here.
I would like to, and I know it's from one to another, but I need to see more of Victor on this Teho, because what Okeanos was doing on this Teho on stage 1 was insane. There was nobody that was able to match him, and even on that first week, it was like he was fighting demons. He was doing anything that he could to win those duels, to close out the rounds, and even to start those rounds. But now going into Victor, it seems like he's going for a little bit more of a passive style on this Teho and playing on this map. Yeah, sure, it worked out yesterday, but it seems like if this is how they want the roles to be settled, where Okeanos is going to be most likely on that controller and Victor on the initiator, as compared to it was before, they need to be a little bit more proactive, especially compared to what we just saw in Ascent, where it was incredibly passive throughout the map. They were losing a lot of map control, and Split, you want to be fighting for that a little bit more, which is something that they've done before, but I want to see them with these roles be able to do the same.
Gompers, they'll be starting on attack, M80, because Plug will be defense. Wow, shocking news. Great analysis, Elizabeth. It is like Dan is hitting on, it is ride or die at this point. They have to be proactive. And we have a Teho matchup. I believe this is a mirror comp, if I'm doing the math correctly in my head. Mirror comp. Gompers right away, that it's going to be the Bones versus Victor, Teho, the Chaotic Sato duelist again. Is there anything that stands out to you with this agent selection?
To be particular, I mean, not really. This is pretty much the composition I guess I was expecting. I'm more excited to see Moose step a bit more this game into that controller role and taking a step away from the Sentinel, just because, again, they were playing very phenomenally as to being that second-hand duelist, surprisingly, as a Sentinel. So here, especially being the Viper and being able to keep watch of space that they were able to take up last game, I feel like here's where we get to see a good difference, right, in a shift in trust and plug and the way they play here on Split.
Pay attention to both of the Omens. Pay attention to Sacred and Okeanos, the way that they not only set up their team for success and Sato and Chaotic for success, but also the way that they like to play individually. This is why they opt for this Omen instead of something like an Astra on this map. They like to play for themselves, and in a lot of those cases, for both Trust and Plug and M80, they find success. But I mean, only one can do it on this map of Split.
And we'll be going into it right away. And I know just who to send it to. It is Lemon Kiwi and Nerds, your casters on the call.
Liz, thanks for picking us too. I'm excited to get into this map too, because there's, you wouldn't believe it, 13-5, but not for the team you would expect. Trust and Plug are here to play.
Yes, Trust and Plug are here to play. Now, it's funny you bring up 13-5 because M80's previous matchup here with the same composition led them, I believe, to a similar scoreline, if I'm not mistaken. And that is, I feel like that, is that an omen? I don't know. It was 13-5 against Burger Boys in round 2 yesterday. So I'm excited to see it. I think this comp worked for M80. Victor can be a little bit more sedentary, right? With Q being IGL in that middle of the pack vibe. So you do have some of that to kind of bring up as talking points. I agree with Dan Dryad, though. We do need to be looking at these two duelists, especially, I would even say, for the start of M80, right? Because Okeanos, they've been really good as that second entry past Sato alongside that utility that both Q and Victor bring. Oki's really good on those picks, and that's what M80 is going to need if we want to see a map 3. On Trust and Plug side, similar sort of concept.
Yeah, we didn't even get to see M80's offense really flourish last map. They only took one round and just were not able to come back from that 8-4 deficit. So we'll see if M80 during the break were able to shape up, and I feel like this is a good omen to go to map 3, because Trust and Plug Split, this was one of their weakest modes from the last stage. I think a 33% win rate, going there 3 times. So this is M80's map pick. We'll see. They'll know how to come back and how to play off of Bao, because I'm glad you brought up the matchup against Burger Boys, because Bao was absolutely incredible on Split, and as a guy that you can really depend to be able to play solo, and someone who has grown tremendously as a player and as an individual.
Fair enough. Love seeing that individual performance. And speaking of, we have an individual down mid while the rest of the roster is down towards different sites, and Teague being individually stuck towards B. So they're going to back out for this exec.
Like that Plug also are testing the waters on the right side of the map, able to teleport back and already bolster and hope to set up a retake. They'll let this plant go through. You see this breach, Teague in position with Bones too. Imagine just salvos, fault line, everything that can rain down on these M80 players as close as they are to the front door. But how proactive do you want to be? M80 are going to put Sato and insert them before Plug could really play off of their own paranoia. That was thrown out by Sacred, but M80 slapped them in the face before they could think. And it's 4 for Sato to give M80 the pistol.
I love them fighting out alley. Gives them a lot of proactivity here. It's sort of that brawling fighting style we saw on the one round they picked up, where they kind of fought into it. I'm not going to read too much into that. What I will read into is the fact that we're getting 3 Bulldogs coming out of M80 here. Post timeout. Should be renewing some of that confidence out of Sato. Get them set up for success. While the rest of the team is, just plug, staying towards the B site. I wouldn't be surprised if, honestly, I'm just thinking in my mind here, Lemon, that they probably try and get, taken down by the spike.
Yeah. Plug really tried to just gamble on the B site being the one that's hit, and M80 switch things up. Pivot to A. Kind of like what they did on Ascent. They like to test the waters on both sides really early and see what is the best chance. Now they get to have a little kumbaya on the site, and you may be right that Plug are just gonna want to not give any ult orbs over.
I didn't want to say it. I think I will. For some reason, I thought that they were going to use the salvos like we saw a couple times. We've seen some teams do that to not give up ult orbs. It's the controversial Valorant opinion. But no, they are just going to go down to the spike, and that is a bit more fair than using the salvos, I guess.
And this is the same sort of start that M80 had. I think what ended up happening is M80 became a little predictable because M80 were on the defense to kick things off. And they were just kind of inserting Sato in these very aggressive, very early positions to get first bloods. And eventually Plug downloaded that. Not only dealt with Sato, but everyone that was kind of behind him, forcing M80 to have that more passive playstyle that the desk was talking about.
Yes. And now we're going to be seeing the full-on brawl. They carried over 3 rifles. Bao going to buy up into a Vandal as well. Is the passivity of Trust and Plug going to pay off? Looking at their setup right now, it seems pretty solid. Very classic split setup with a gate crash setup towards the A site and then fighting out early. Chaotic doesn't find much, so mid crawl comes through, and I'm worried about this mid crawl.
Even just the smoke from Sacred denies a lot of the fakes that M80 could have cooked up with their Viper wall, but it is mid-control that M80 are worried about, centered their focus on Mail, and Moose is just gonna walk down solo and kind of check things out. Was not expecting all of that business, and Bones can't even follow up, but at least he'll hold his position. Teague will take the alternate angle, the fault line, or at least flash if there were to be that big of a fight, but a crack in the smoke, and Teague gets the spike down in mid. M80 have to really depend on plan B, this option that these lurks are opening at A.
That's why I was worried about it. They have a setup here where they're playing in both of the heavens and reactive towards what M80 is doing, and because of that, mid crawl gets pinched, and now they're forced down towards the A site. The call's been made and the rotates are there for Plug.
Like when M80, when they plant the spike, they don't just sit pretty on the post plant. They like to get active early. Look at that early paranoia from M80, but Chaotic still does not falter. And with the salvos up close, Plug able to break out of the choke, try to surround M80, and now it's a real scrap. Plug still had the better numbers in the end and managed to take round 3.
And now it was the bonus, but it was a very beefy bonus out of M80, so I do look into it because they did play sort of aggro, try to fight for space out of M80's side. We talked a little bit about how they fought out early, a very common tactic for M80, and how it didn't work. So Plug, I guess, just really focusing on maintaining numbers as much as possible. Sato did shine here pretty well, so I do want to give a lot of props to that on the M80 side, but I do also want to then flip the narrative to Plug and say they did a good job of re-clearing. Now, we're talking about clearing utility. Sato is on for that dimensional drift.
But there is a 3-person walk down with the fault line from Plug to try and help this dimensional drift. Sato is not afraid to uncloak behind them, and he just backstabs Bones, opens up the lane for M80 to walk through. And with this Viper wall, it could do anything from go to ramp to go through main, and it's Teague with the 3-piece, almost the 4th. And just like that, Plug, the firing squad, just completely dismantling what looked like such a good round from M80.
Shocked Pikachu face. What? I mean, we talked about the Brainiac battle, and at this point, it's less of a battle and more of just the fact that Teague is out-aiming and out-braining in this moment. The setup there was awesome. They came out of the Viper's wall and immediately were sprayed down. You get a beautiful replay on it as Teague just holds down the site. I mean, it's even funnier because you knew Teague's position for like a split second, so the reaction should have been there because you aimed and shot at the clone. But regardless, that's going to put 2-2 on the board, and M80 now being pressured down to a default, or just a pistol, sorry.
And it's usually Sato that's had these first bloods for M80, and then they're still losing rounds with everything Sato gives them. And now he won't be there to give them anything at all. Plug striking early, really reading the M80 walk down on mid, and this time just getting active early. Chaotic is having a huge round. It is also mostly a save out of a M80. We'll see what Caillou can do. The last one left and nowhere to go. And it's Plug making quick work of that.
I mean, I said this at I think the end of last game. This is most likely going to be double digits for both teams, but right now it's looking like another win streak coming out from Plug with the 3 rounds in a row picked up for them. And the reason I even bring that up is because there are 2 really crucial ultimates for retake on the board, Lemon. You have the Rolling Thunder Dimensional Drift. Dimensional Thunder, anyone? You guys want to bring that out here and give yourself that 4th round just to keep the party rolling here for Trust and Plug?
Oh my god. Someone's kneecap almost just got blown off. And you need Sato in these rounds. If he's having a bad day, I'm not sure M80 can hang with most teams. Sato is such a crucial part of the firepower. As M80 are going to try this mid walk down again, but this time really playing with their food. Not afraid to teleport, jump around. Plug peek them early. M80 are trying to be ready for it. And now Plug gonna leave that mid open to try and cut them off, take a different angle. That's what Plug really was successful at on the scent, is how creative they were and how much they were able to read M80. Ooh, that was a close kneecap gone again. M80 having control, still trying to find targets. It's an exchange. And Plug still denying any map control. Now the spike is gone. No one in B main. And this lurk is so cooked.
Yeah. I mean, their mid play hasn't really worked, unfortunately. We've seen a couple of rounds in a row where M80 has tried to walk up into mid. I think like round 3, round 4 as well. I mean, now on round 6, it just hasn't been consistent enough for M80 to invest in it. And Bao is now just sedentary, lonely. I'm so lonely. I guess the one thing I do want to say is that it's good out of M80 that they're going to be saving here. I wouldn't be surprised if we see another Chet timeout here as well to kind of reset the mental. And the final capstone of my entire analysis is that Bao has a little bow on his gun, and I think that is beautiful. W product placement.
And Bao, he's been a super trustworthy guy when it comes to split and being able to activate those lurks. You just need a team to be alive to, okay, let's go to plan B. But M80, they're like, oh, look at all this mid control. Wow, look at all this space. Wow, we have heaven, we have high ground. Things are going swell. But Plug are not afraid to stay hidden and kind of swing on you at random times. And M80, if they can just get the spike planted, their post plants have been solid, but Plug are something else at really just jumping out at them before they're really ready for it.
I do agree with the solid post plant, because look at Victor, they have Armageddon. So we have like a good ultimate utility here to counter the 2 ultimates, the Dimensional Thunder on the flip side, right? So you have those, combo ultimates, whereas there's a sedentary ultimate, proper Q battle as it may be. Regardless of how it's played out, though, this needs to be a mental reset more than anything, and just like giving Sato some of that hype. Because a big talking point here on the desk with you as well and myself is that Sato has to be really active and get proactive, fighting towards alley, fighting towards heaven to get those preemptive strikes before Plug can mount a retake. And yeah, there haven't been that many retakes. There was only round 3 where we saw defuse, but there's been a lot of retakes of space that Plug has been able to do and execute into that very well in comparison to M80, who is now back to another save.
And there's not as many good info tools from M80, so when you see like a Teague 3K, 4K, you're like, well, you don't blame M80, you're kind of just going in. 3-2-1, everyone cover your angles. But at least one thing that M80 does know is there's an up. And now you know well and dear where it is. A good first blood from Chaotic. Sato down again in these early rounds.
The reposition's immediate, as well as the setup out of Plug. Bones is going to be really aggressive here, knowing, okay, it's an eco round. Let's get our ultimates up.
Yeah, you can just, if M80 wanted to just wait for the Viper fuel to be up and just kind of isolate that ramp duel, it's definitely possible. M80 will at least make it look like they've left and kind of keep Bao behind. If you can get an early win here, that could bring M80 back to the A site, but it's going to be another mid walk down from M80. This time not leaving any cracks in their smoke where T can swing off of them, so gaps being covered.
They do still have Viper meandering around. Bao is there, but this mid has not worked for them. The setup is just there.
The paranoia from M80, but a counter paranoia, rolling thunder from across. Plug, set up a trap, and M80 are prey, and they just walk into it. And it's the spike carrier going up first. Okeano was worried about vents. M80 getting all their wires crossed. And just as much as M80 were trying to still push the envelope, there's just such a bite back from Plug. The spike just barely grabbed before Plug chased them down. This is just so clinical from Plug.
It feels like I'm watching a game of cat and mouse. Tom and Jerry. Yeah, there's the bar. There's the bar right here. And what a... I mean, it's like the same thing we saw on Ascent. Like, there's got to be a lot out of Trust and Plug in terms of individual, like, VOD review and as well as individual play that has happened here, because they are reading really well into M80. On top of the fact that M80 has kind of been going mid. Now, to be fair, that timeout should be talking about this round, considering the previous was an eco, and it does look different. It seems like a little bit more of a default setup. One concern, Spike is still leaning mid. Okay.
Not even gonna use the clone. Okeanos just read that well. Now M80 just flood on in. This time not a Teague. 5-piece coming in. Bow with a big opener. And a spike that gets planted. Finally, an M80 post plant that we get to see for the first time since pretty much the start of the map. And they're just extending deep into screens.
I was going to say, and they have a really good setup because they're in screens 4-stack. It's going to force Plug to clear out so much and not get much value out of their clears.
All right, you four get the omen. And you're just going to have Okeanos deal with the rest. But a lot of angles to cover there. So M80... just have one person left to go. And M80 able to strike early and even have lots of bells and whistles for the post plant. But what's been good about M80 is if they can just land that paranoia, if you can just land that initiator util and have an advantage in these duels, they can set up themselves for success in these rounds. And Plug, they still have the lead for now though.
So I have the lead, but it did stop the round streak of victory that we've been seeing so consistently out of this electric squad. We have an electric squad and bomb squad on the other side, and it's interesting. It's interesting, the combinations between them. But I do want to praise post timeout how they just started off a little defaulty on a setup, made some noise in a couple places. Chaotic, I'm a little interested in what Chaotic's MO there was, but immediately pivoting towards A on a fast exec, just being able to really speed it up and ramp that through is what M80 kind of needs. They're the explosive squad for a reason.
And Plug gonna pit up mid since that's been M80's favorite spot. Just cracking that smoke there, allowing Sacred to try and get a shot in, and just overwhelmed M80 get to run in and take full map control, or full site control I should say. The Tejo salvos are gonna delay things for M80 not having an immediate plant. The smokes are only gonna last for so long, so M80 are trying to have a sense of security. But you got a dimensional drift from Chaotic, who's really trying to disrupt as much as he can with the offensive pit and the Armageddon. M80 are trying to set up all the goalposts so that Plug cannot cross. And if anything, Plug is starting to surround this pit and try to find any gaps in this fortress. And it's Okeanos that hunts down Teague. A lot of 1v1s happening, and it's Chaotic and Bones that win theirs. Within the pit, Bones is lurking, and it's all up to Chaotic with 13 HP, and he can't do it. He needs to keep this up.
Again, just aggress. Mid play isn't working. We need to change something up. And now, even more so towards the B site, quite difficult to hold in some cases for M80. Instead of wanting to fight out alley or take heaven control, they just pit up and, like you mentioned, isolate the 1v1s. M80 looking really refreshed off of that, considering that they have gotten multiple rounds in a row where they haven't been close. It hasn't been down to a 1v1. They've had 3 players up into the face in action of Trust and Plug, who, on the flip side, have started to slip in terms of their holds. They've been expecting to play reactive, and that passivity that we once discussed now coming back to, I don't want to say exactly bite them. They're still up and they have a change of pace here, but the proactivity, I'm wondering how it's going to act on them. Right? We haven't seen this yet.
Wow, just the defensive Armageddon from Bones just to get M80 scrambling early. There's all kinds of pings from M80 to try and walk down B main, and as M80 delay from the Armageddon, Plug take full map control and try to get into B garage before Sato puts an end to that. Now, one step at a time, M80 have one member on the site to still deal with, and it's been such a pain. Moose did quite a lot of damage to them before he went down. He got a 2v2.
One enemy remaining.
Just Bao really trusting Okeanos had cleared the backside, and Bones just demolishes both.
Rattles them. Definitely a better look out of Trust and Plug fighting out early. M80 trying to counter that with their dimensional get-in, Armageddon, dimensional drift combo. I think I'm losing the plot here, but what I haven't lost is the fact that M80 did try to get proactive into what was happening out of the Trust and Plug side when they were fighting out early. But through the chaos, it felt like almost M80 overcooked the scenario in their own interesting way and allowed Plug to play more passively and let them come into their crosshairs, like we saw Bones just locking things down on the B site. Now, still pretty even. We don't see any operators other than Chaotic.
Poison orb emitting.
2 rounds left in the half, and M80 having a way slower approach. Just Plug have been really aggressive, throwing out a lot of ults early. And M80 maybe just kind of wanting to wait to see if Plug are going to walk up on them on B garage like Chaotic has done before. And they had the double walk up in the previous round too, so M80 are going to be met with early aggression yet. They are going to be allowed to have free space in heaven. Obviously expecting Plug to be narrowed down, so Sato gets an early catch. With this high ground though, M80 have failed in this position before, and they're just going to decide to abandon it and pivot to A.
I like that though, because this is a mid crawl that's slightly changed because they have the Viper wall and the player already lurked up. It gives them a lot more confidence on that A site.
Not going to start off well. M80 are just going to go in pretty deep without the spike being planted, and it is a 1-for-1, keeping M80 with an advantage. A ramp push up from this Viper from Bao to catch anyone from Robes. Victor already ahead of the game. Good crossfire set up for the high ground, and then your flank is the only thing you have to worry about if you're M80. And look who's already on the job. It's Sato, who's looking out for Bones or any flanker. Plug are split up from each other. Bones tagged up too. This is going to be a near impossible round to take up. So I appreciate Sacred wanting to, I guess, just keep the rifle, though he's rich enough.
Big save moment here. And honestly, I agree with them at this point, considering that you're going into 4 players. The mischief maker, as always. Mischief out of M80. Are they going hunting? They're really digging up treasure here, and all they find is Bones. Unfortunate. Good timings on it. Runs away and is going to get pinched here. Wow, okay. Wait, really good value. Sato's low HP here. There's no way Sato fights that. And what looked like a really good round out of M80 kind of got soured near the end. But sometimes when you make a beautiful dish, you got to put a little vinegar on it to kind of brighten the flavors, which is interesting. We're seeing a little timeout here. I'm assuming a tech timeout might be in order. No, it's a Trust and Plug timeout. Okay. Off of that round, I mean, I guess they're talking about how, we saw them in mid. We used to play really reactive against them. We had a lot of coordination on that mid play to counter M80, and it just did not work within that round. M80 found the source of that, which was if we are going to be going into mid, we can always back out if we have inserts or if we have players lurked up on other sides of the map. And honestly, that fresh look out of M80 is bringing me a lot of confidence for them taking this game the distance.
Yeah, they found success with mid control, but, despite having a pick over at B, to just fake it and go to A, and kind of wrapping around a weaker side to the back has been huge for M80. So I think Plugs just have to figure out, okay, how are we going to maybe play further back at A to catch Heaven, a Heaven push or just a Ropes push from M80. And if we want to just kind of catch them early in the mid walk-up and not allow this to go free, it's how Plug are going to dictate what space M80 are allowed to have. That's what I'm interested in.
Control the map. Control the flow of kilowatts for the electric squad. All that matters.
Wow, this is aggressive from Moose and well punished from Victor. Even salvos just to kind of keep Plug at bay. This is a post-Plug timeout as well. The final round of the half. See if M80 can mount a comeback. Now ready to execute on the other side of the smoke and almost picking his targets well. Sacred got close to getting two. As Chaotic holds ramp, and this is the position that M80 are familiar with, but Victor turns his back at the wrong moment. The spike will still go down with more than enough members from M80 to protect it and send us into an even second half.
Yeah, I like that. The mid play was like such a solid fake because Tejo was so pivotal to a lot of the mid play that we saw out of M80. It really kind of forced Plug to kind of react into that, where they flooded into heaven and kind of try to contain that a little bit more. I think the only sort of little chaotic note was Victor running away, trying to get to safety and being caught off guard. Otherwise, felt like a lot of control out of M80 throughout that entire round, where they had an idea to kind of pressure into mid and then hit onto A little slowly. Yes, you know, we did see Sacred there on the angle taking that fight, but they immediately get those refrags. We'll actually see them in the replay. Beautiful overhead shot here, but it felt like they had control up until then, basically.
M80 find themselves on defense with two controllers and a lot of ways to limit things. The walls set up on the right side. An open B main for Okeanos to look through. Meanwhile, Plug are just charging up, marching through mid until the cutoff from Bow from Vents finally happens, and the well-timed smokes from Bow to make sure that Plug can't synergize any kind of reaction.
So now Plug back out. And I like that call of synergizing some sort of reaction here, because now Plug has been cooking things up and they're walking back into mid space.
At least you know where Bow is. He's been in heaven before, so Plug really limited on their initiator util to try and make this person uncomfortable. Just the presence alone forces Bow to take a back sight position. And again, M80 just, okay, Victor was not expecting that kind of party in ropes. And Plug pivot to A, and it's an open sight.
Just having a fun time in their bounce castle, known as ropes, just jumping around, jumping down into it. Double push pinch, though, is going to be a little lackluster, considering the fact that we already have these setups and you're going to get caught off guard in a couple seconds. Oki, there it is. It's just going to be down towards Bow, and a really good play out of Plug, who played that slow and methodical, not really trying to divulge their hand just yet, and it's spicing it up, man, because M80 has looked very clinical in the past, like against Burger Boys and some other squads, but it really does feel like that Ambrosia vibe where you don't really have a solid ground to stand on if you're M80. Remember, if you're going to be working with pyrotechnics, you have to have all the licenses, and it seems like they just, you know, need to reapply.
Plug just have good reads of where M80 are coming from, and to just follow through with the game plan. As soon as they have that pick, they know exactly which site to go to. And with all the pings from M80, expecting some aggression here in the middle of the map, where Caillou at the ready with a fault line or a flash, and Plug aren't going to walk into that. They'll just wait for the smoke from this Omen to expire in B garage. Ready to gate crash in, and this is something that Okeanos has to worry about. He has a paranoia, and he manages to limit Chaotic for a moment, but Bones is able to bolster the front line, and Plug have a battle on their hands. And because of the smoke, you're able to separate this defense, and M80 can only help each other so much. Victor will emerge finally from the top rope. 1v2 though, with Teague pretty tagged up, and he gets the last laugh.
I mean, really great fight out of M80. It looked so winnable for Victor picking up the rifle, but it does not convert. A huge play, though, out of M80, getting a lot of damage done to Trust and Plug, who now don't have like a beefy attack buy here to kind of carry over a similar steamroll. Now, that being said, things are just getting heated up. M80 buying up to full, setting up very much passive, nothing super crazy. Like the setup towards A having a lot of stall potential, a lot of brawl potential.
And Plug can just clear ramp, and if they're really worried, they have a rolling thunder. Kind of depends how blind you want to go in, and it's Chaotic that gets suppressed before he could make entry into heaven. There is that rolling thunder from Teague, and Plug look unconfident from this position, just really smoked off from trying to get into heaven. You don't know who's on the other side. You have no mid control. You don't know if someone's in ropes. I don't blame Plug's hesitation. Eventually they'll wait for that to expire, and his Bones opens up with a huge double kill. Chaotic leads the back into screens, and M80 are behind on this round.
To save, like, they're already backed up all the way towards B, and it's a really good save at that, considering it's still early part of this game. But I was predicting double digits, and Plug looks like they are raring to get going. I was concerned because it looked like it was set up to stall. You had the wall there, you had the players there, you had no mid control coming out of Plug, like all these things were mentioned. And yet what they did was they just waited it out and still fast exec and won fights. Bones picking up 2 there is really instrumental, and without that, I think it would have, been a little bit more back and forth. We could have seen M80 re-enter into it, but because Bones was so active so quickly, it really allowed for that. And that's actually a demonstration of how Bones took those players out, just like straight running at them with a stinger.
Just trying to deny any rifles from M80 is always great.
Group photo.
Group photo.
Group
Back
photo.
to spawn. Next round. Ready to go. But is anyone kind of worried though? 9-6, Plug's on a win streak. It is just the start of the second half, but they are on series point. They're approaching match point, and this was an M80 squad where when Liz talked to Chet last week, they think that M80 have had a lot of success in their practice. They think they're a top 2, top 3 team, and this loss, like the first one, you could say was a fluke, but a second loss, you're starting to create a trend.
It's not one that I want to go viral, or at least not a lot of M80 fans want to go viral, but I think that the electric boogie is going to be caught by a lot of these teams. All things considered, even against the Ambrosia game, this was the map that M80 did pick up. This is the map where M80 did win out of that matchup that they inevitably lost. So it's kind of insane to think that this one was the gimme, right? We're talking about the Preds. This is the gimme. You didn't get it. This isn't the bingo center dot. And honestly, for this timeout, I can't even kind of theorize what's going to be going in the comms, because at the end of the day, for M80, they're doing a lot of things right, just being met with a lot more, I guess, tipped scales is the best way I can put it here. Plug has been really controlling and knowing where M80 is going to go.
Now I would say Trust and Plug have more excuses to not perform when they have Bones and Moose that are new. M80 are just incorporating Victor, but there's a lot of coaching differences happening on both sides. But let's look at what this dimensional drift can do from Chaotic. He gets into Mail, he's in Heaven, and the rest of Plug wait for their turn to go into B main, while the rest of M80 are ready to flood in as soon as they hear that gate crash expire. It's all up to Chaotic if he can protect himself in an isolated scenario, and he only goes 1 for 1. Can't go really band for band against M80. They've just re-established themselves on B. Plug, now that the smokes are clear, just hoping to carve and clear their way. Re-clear into M80, but a shotgun this close. Bow, a big surprise, fades into the shadows. Caillou with the Sheriff too. The reload is so unfortunate from Plug and M80. A big thrifty to get back on their high horse.
Very big B brawl. Unexpected round to pick up, but it works. A lot of confidence, I feel, coming out of Sato. And it feels like a lot of these timeouts have been off the back of like Sato popping off and really carrying that trend in. Although they have been forced out on the re-clear, getting Victor a weapon as well. Also just the fact that Bao is chilling in a corner. I think that's my favorite part about some of these plays and challengers is that you see it like it's a bit silly. And it works. That's the best part about the game.
Gate crash from Plug, set up right next to Vents, and Chaotic is going to take it, insert himself right into ropes and 6 feet under. Who expects a double stack there? M80 keeping themselves around the perimeter to not let Plug pivot into A or B.
All of my hop with how he was jumping into a double stack because at this point now you have a setup of an op, you have the rest of the squad just generally exploring out here. M80 have fielded a lot more control of this map.
Plug already have the spike drop, so M80 are gonna wrap around A, and it's about T keeping himself alive as the Moose will join his side. And they made a lot of noise at B. They've lost people at B, and Plug have to decide is what's gonna be the site hit. They got time, but the smokes are gone. M80 have open sight lines to cut off Plug. Good dodge on the flash from Okeanos, and eventually M80 creep up on Plug's attack.
There's that flawless. M80 really needed that. And again, we're talking about fielding a lot more control of the site. What I mean by that is you have an up sight line down B. You have players pushing out towards A. You have a good amount of mid pushed up as well. And now you force Trust and Plug into a rethink, right? Trust and Plug have really had a good read and a pace on this game for at least the first 3 rounds, and avoid getting giving up a lot of map control in places they don't want it. And even more than that, just ensuring that if they do give up map control, like on the attacking side, that they either re-clear into it when they're going for it, or just not allowing Sato to be set up for success.
I think that Sato has like a fellow duo to work along with. Like M80 are playing more in pairs, so you're guaranteed to trade, you would think, in a 2v1. M80 are good enough to get away or to pull that off. Trust and Plug, though, post timeout, don't want to let this lead slip away, and it's an Armageddon. Where do you expect M80 to set up? I could imagine this could be used around mid, because M80 have bolstered a lot around the perimeter. Let Plug walk up there. Could just leave the spike in main. And then you're thinking about what Chaotic and Moose could do to converge into mid against Bao.
B split for Plug. Something rehearsed could be quite nice. Ooh.
Armageddon to just drown out the rats from the sewers. Chaotic gate crashes to teleport in their face, and good space for Plug to work with. And M80 are throwing out paranoias to just delay things from Plug to push through main with a smoke in their face as well. And Chaotic looks for targets. He gets sniped, and Okeanos and friends just focus down heaven. That was so clinical. Another flawless from M80.
It looked really rehearsed out of Plug. That's the thing that's kind of surprising to me, is that exec looked like it could have been a set play or just a really good performance out of them. And yet M80 still had a solid counter. Sato finding the first op shot, as well as the Armageddon being perfectly placed to allow that displacement flood. They had to jump down from heaven into the open arms of the bomb squad, ready to just decimate all over them. And now, I mean, there is no time for timeouts. There's no time for anything. It's a matter of who is going to have the better consistency here. And if M80 are the ones starting on the hot foot, well, I mean, that fuse is short. It's already been lit.
I like the salvos from Bones. Just make these positions uncomfortable to make M80 a little insecure in the fault line. After seeing the double stack from M80 and Ropes, Plug are always adapting to M80's game plan. That's what made them successful on Ascent. But where do you go from here? M80, and of course, cover their bases in Ropes. Not let this be a free climb into heaven, but with this lurk too into B main, B is looking like a weaker site to hit.
Ooh. The op does give a little bit of like hesitancy, I would say, off the Plug side, because we don't want to go into that op. And now that's allowed M80 to rotate. All things considered, you do also have Moose with the wall up towards the A lean. They're still going to go back towards B, and Sato's holding on to this, so it's not completely out of M80's hands.
Yeah, because Sato can just get the one and dip. Like, he doesn't have to commit to a 1v5 here. It almost got the arm of that breach. Chaotic with the teleport forward, saving that, but Sato saves the day. 2 HP and a dream. Someone put a stop to him. But here is 911 that M80 called. The reinforcements are here, and Sato's left to just do so much more. And the disrespectful nade from Moose. Plug secure the round after all that.
What? Well, yeah, okay, I mean, I was saying, like, you don't want to discredit Sato. They've been really good on that op. Set up for success. My comms are there. I've colored the commentary. Sato pops off, dies to Molly. And that's so huge, because now double digits fall in favor of Plug. They're on series point to topple a team that has been touted as Titans. I have no more T-words to throw into this, because at this point, Trust and Plug seem to be the T-word. They're the ones that are honestly showing a lot in terms of adaptability. No timeout needed. They still played that with such precision.
Oh, Sato. The first bloods, the what, 2 or 3K he got last round. Like, Sato does so much for this team. But sometimes they just don't win rounds no matter how good it starts. And M80 got to know how to close it out. So they get that pick in a main, but no information on mid. And that's why there's a lot of attention from Sato and Bao to cover that.
And Sato, again, they have been very clinical. M80 has had a very good time of just being able to come back in some unbelievable moments. But regardless, the Op and the Yoru have gone hand in hand time and time again for both squads.
You're just always expecting an M80 member to just be front and center on the B side looking for picks, and Plug are so good at just waiting for smokes to expire and evict everyone nearby. Plug looking for a safe plan, but M80's dimensional drift is not allowing this. Sato with the shoddy. Now he's got the up. He's looking for a fourth, and there's 2 enemies left in a crossfire position. Chaotic with the clone and the jump out. Sato almost flicks for the ace. Denied though by Bones as Plug go to match point series point.
We talk about just having such a strong player, and then the fact that the rest of the squad is just it's just like having such a hard time, because Sato is close to dropping 30, almost 24.
Oh, yeah.
But like they're closer to that than anyone else on the server, and yet we still see the round score favoring Trust in Plug, just because they can't just close it out. Those final moments, it feels rather rough. And that's the thing about Trust and Plug, is that they're fine to play it really dirty and scrappy as long as they get that W at the very end.
2 rounds to go until the win for Plug. Stacked up, no lurk, no other option. Just their heads held high against one of the best teams in Challengers. They can play off their Viper wall. You could always expect such an aggressive teleport in from Chaotic, but he's cut off from his own Viper wall. Ramp control not taken quick enough. We'll see if Chaotic sacrifice will be worth it. At least Plug found a trade, and it's still going well as Heaven Pursuit is on, but shifting away to try and find these members that were set up early there from M80 close to this front entry. Plug looking for targets, giving up on their ramp mission. Now hoping to lock eyes with M80 before this Sato op comes into play.
And they Q spotted them out, so there's going to be a lot of stall utility to allow Sato to rotate. That smoke as well, giving a lot of confidence to Plug. Like, we can take some control here. We can grasp it away from M80.
30 seconds left.
Oh, what a read from M80. Just thinking that they're going to pivot out of A. If they haven't planted yet, something's got to be up. And M80 could get a big cutoff here. The stomps. And Sato could not drop down fast enough. But Okeanos is still limiting Plug's forces. 10 seconds left to plan, and M80 could prevent this from happening. Caillou and Okeanos race in. Will not be able to stop the spike from going down, but could put a stop to Teague. He's in a 1v2 and up close and personal. Okeanos gives him a kiss goodbye. And M80 getting real close to the tie.
Oh my gosh. Double digits for both. Plug looking to be, I mean, like we said, right? M80 has looked really clean, and Sato having such good reads. And now we're starting to see everyone else come alive and flourish. So we're not on the flowery map of Lotus. We're here on Split. Just unfortunate timings on the setups and good reads out of M80. There's nothing more that we could do here. Honestly, I will say I like that start out of Trust and Plug 2, where they kind of played slow, and I thought that their mid-round call to go into ramp and go into A was crucial and good. I think the rotate B was a little rough. Stall it out, then hit A. But at the end of the day, we have the benefit of hindsight.
It's just been the battle of 2 ops, but now Sato is the only one with one, and that means he gets to dominate the mid map. The pit too makes it impossible, but Plug with stingers in this half buy, maybe down to scrap at close range. They're still investing the Taeho bot. They want information on vents and a male, but Bao just holds the pit. Plug can't dismantle it until now. It's costed Plug so much, but this was going to be a round that was going to be a mountain to overcome. And M80 will force the tie.
11-11 on the board. M80 crawling back here. And I'm starting to sit at the edge of my seat here because it's been a very funny pattern of 3-3-2-2. Breaks through Plug. Now has some crucial ultimates to really play off of. Look at that positioning. Just catching one within their pit down mid. It's a trap laid out for you. It's called the Viper's Pit for a reason. They just go into the maw of it. But again, I'm still looking at these ultimates. You have so many crucial ones for the side of Trust and Plug when it comes to site holds and retakes, or retake prevention, more specifically preventing M80 from getting back onto the site.
Whoa, Rolling Thunder Paranoia, and I don't think anyone from Plug got hit by that. So a big risk for M80 to take to go in blind like that. And well, they're at least going to try and benefit from the map control that they had, having Okeanos sit in B garage, but also not wanting to take such a risky position when his paranoia or his presence on smokes is going to be so valuable for M80 long term.
Keep yourself alive. Yourself alive. And now they're just slowly trying to stack back towards A. Plug had good read on this previously. I would want him to continue. Sato, though, again, ever a thorn in the side of this Plug.
And Plug just hearing all of that action on the left side of the map. Happy to just work with what they have on the right. The Rolling Thunder, just to make sure there's no pesky M80 members within the site. Now pushing screens to get paranoia from Sacred. Still not enough to perturb Caillou, as this is for the lead and for match point. And it's M80 trying to dodge an Armageddon from Bones, and it causes a lot of chaos within the site. It is just that Sato player, but he's dismantled. Now it's just Bao. A big double kill with Okeanos to take care of Teague on the post plant. He's got nothing. 8 seconds until a fault line, and couldn't turn and burn fast enough on Okeanos, and M80 steal away a lead.
It was such a gut wrencher because it was a very nice 1v2. You have a good crossfire creeping onto the site, and yet it still comes down to that. Now we have match point for M80, the people who, you know, we expected to have a good round here, at least to some degree, or at least win out. I did not expect it to be... Actually, no, I did expect it to be this close. And I'm just impressed entirely by the way that Plug has played this. Sure, they've been losing a couple rounds, but they're showing that, okay, we can get onto the site. We use a lot of those ultimates. They played counter to the ultimate as well off the site. Very good stuff out of them. But now they actually don't have any ultimates for Plug. They wasted all of them trying to attain a bare minimum of match point. Now puts them at a deficit.
The paranoia in B site completely opened to Trust and Plug. Sato's at the back of the site. As soon as this smoke clears, his op could really shine if he has space to. He's already getting pressed, but Victor by his side collects 2, allows Sato to still live on. And Plug, we're also trying to dodge an Armageddon placed by might have been Victor, but there was an Armageddon causing a lot of problems for Plug. Now they find themselves not even on the site to protect the spike. And even if Moose peeks here, he won't be in vision of that. Spike will be diffused eventually, and that is an M80 win. Despite having so many deficits this map, they came back.
They did. They did. And honestly, that was... For any M80 fans out there, that was very much a turbulent ride. But we have landed safely here. And M80 have rightfully won split, I guess. I don't know, rightfully is the correct word, considering that that was the closest scoreline you can get without it going past regulation. Just a lot that went wrong for M80, went right for Plug, went wrong for Plug, and went right for M80. So the yin-yang goes back and forth. You can't really call it in either direction, Lemon.
Yeah, Trust and Plug only ever had, what, 3-round leads? Like, they were up 5-2 at some point, then 9-6. They weren't able to create as much as insurance in the rounds compared to Ascent, and that gave M80 a little bit of wiggle room to adapt and to come back where you thought Trust and Plug were going to close it out at the end. Insane clutch from M80. We go to map 3, but before that, we got to check in with the desk, so we'll see you after this.
Just breathing. I think that a lot of people don't remember to just take deep breaths during the clutch, and also just like trusting your gut. Multiple times that I've coached players, it seems like they think about 100 different things and then can't come to a decision instead of just like instantly trusting their gut.
I try to just like be prepared, and I feel like that's reassuring towards myself to handle pressure and deal with any of like the nerves or anything. Is like the more I feel in control, the more I feel prepared with going to a scenario or a matchup, the less that feels is like pressing to me, like inside of me. There's not as much like nervousness or pressure on it because I feel ready for what's to come, and I feel confident in what I have prepared, like looked at and game planned or whatever it may be. So for me, I think it's definitely like preparation and doing a lot of like prep work, whether that's VOD or like my own game plans or whatever it might be when it comes to practice and any ritual that I have before, especially if it's just like warming up. Even warming up helps to feel very prepared with myself and my performance, and I think that's helped a lot with easing off pressure.
I feel like the best way to deal with pressure is just like to accept that it is there. I don't believe that people cannot feel pressure unless they actually don't really care about what they're doing. Competition should have pressure, right? Otherwise it's not even that much fun. That's where the fun part of competition is, you feeling that thrill of, you know, playing something that's worth it.
Maybe I'll feel like the nerves, like of the excitement of the match before. It really just depends on the match. It's just like having like a system and a team that you can trust. So no matter what, no matter who's playing bad or who's playing good, it's something you can hold on to and be consistent with. Even then, by like trusting your system, trusting your teammates, you know, that'll open up a lot more actual kill potentials than, you know, playing like you're Lionel Messi. Not everyone is Kane Zero on the ISO, you know.
What I used to do was I would give myself at least piss around to kind of get my nerves out. So even if I whiff or don't do what I was supposed to do, I would kind of take it easy and be okay with, you know, messing up or being a little bit nervous. But I don't really get nervous too much anymore. So because after piss around, I just completely forget about being in a match, and I just play like it is in practice and kind of just let things flow.
People would really like to give up and they don't really have that drive.
The